Okay, everybody, here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Fun Math presentation. Before we begin, we should take a moment to think about what we mean by fun. What we really mean is engaging. Therefore, this is about engaging teaching practices, specifically targeting mathematics. First, we should take a look at what the research tells us. We know that the U.S. currently has low math scores, and part of this is due to the curriculum. Research also tells us that countries with a Singapore curriculum score the highest in international math assessments. And we know that autonomy support can raise math scores. What is autonomy, you may be wondering? It's the experience of being the author and origin of one's behavior, the subjective sense that one's moment-to-moment activity authentically expresses the self and its inner motivation. Behavior is autonomous when students freely endorse what they are doing in the classroom, and this inner endorsement of one's actions is most likely to happen when students' inner motivational resources, for example, their needs, interests, and preferences, guide their ongoing classroom engagement. Given this understanding of the nature of student autonomy, a definition of teacher-provided autonomy support can be offered. Autonomy support is the interpersonal behavior teachers provide during instruction to identify, nurture, and build students' inner motivational resources. So that's the focus of our research, providing autonomy support. One example of this is telling a student they did a good job, or giving them a high five. These are the interpersonal behaviors that teachers do that build the student's motivation. So for motivation, the research tells us that teachers can directly influence the motivation of the students through autonomy support and optimal structure, where optimal structure might be a curriculum. Next we come to the fun part, the engagement. We know from the research that autonomous students are more motivated and engaged. So we put together a little graph here, or picture, so that you can see that if we're after this engagement, we need to start with their math self-concept, and self-concept is the idea that I can or I cannot do something. And they might have different self-concepts for different subjects, like math or social studies, or their personal self. And these are different self-concepts, but math is one of them. And that plays a role in their self-efficacy. And self-efficacy is the same thing. I can do something. And by enhancing our self-efficacy, we can increase our autonomy and therefore our motivation and engagement. What we did in our study was we took a kindergarten student, gave them autonomy support through self-efficacy, meaning we just told them, you're doing a great job, I believe in you, and we did this continuously for about 6 weeks, 2 lessons per week. And here's the combined data results. We measured their level of engagement from 0 to 10, which is rescaled to 0 to 100 here. And you can see their engagement stayed high all the way until the last lesson. This is basically the teacher noting whether the student is staying on task and enjoying the lesson and actively participating. The second thing we measured was their math self-concept, and this was a whiteboard with a little line with numbers on it, like 0 to 100, and a magnetic slider that the student would slide to the left or right to indicate whether they felt good about math or bad about math. And you can see the orange here is their math self-concept. So they were high all but one time on lesson 4. And we noted that they had a difficult time with that lesson, and it crushed their self-concept, which bounced right back and stayed high. And in subsequent lessons where the lesson was difficult, the student's self-concept remained high because of all those previous positive experiences doing math. And the third thing we measured was their personal self-concept. This is how the student feels about themselves in general. And it was the same method, a slider. And you can see their self-concept went up and down and really didn't correlate much to the others. These were supporting what the research was telling us, that by using this autonomy support, we could in fact increase their engagement and keep them engaged. It dropped off a little bit towards the end, but once we had their self-concept, their math self-concept built up and reinforced over several lessons, they could handle challenging situations and stay engaged and still have a high self-concept. There are other techniques we found out in our literature reviews that we did not test that we would think would be strong candidates for further research. We also think that this could be conducted on a larger scale with maybe 10, 15 students to test it for more applicability to students who might be partially engaged or fully engaged and some not engaged at all, to see what kind of combined results you can get in a larger group. And that concludes our information for this short session. It is just a presentation. If you would like more details, we have complete bibliography